Hey everyone, hi Anu.
Hello,
Thank
how
you.
are you, Suchin?
I am good. I am excited. I'm very excited to be talking about this one show, which is one of my favorites, which is of course Friends. But yes, thank you everyone for joining us today to discuss one of the most celebrated and beloved shows of all time. I think I can say that safely, which is of course Friends. And we just wanted to get together to just revisit the show and talk about our relationship with it ahead of the highly anticipated Friends reunion, which is being aired around the world tomorrow on India on Z5. But Anu, just starting off, what is, I mean, I know everyone has a very distinct and personal relationship with the show. Everyone's discovered it at a different time. I know you discovered it relatively later on than the rest of the world.
Yeah, I had my head in the sand. But I have to tell everybody who's joined us that I am basically the I don't know. I'm the what's the right word for it, just the guest appearance who's actually not as clued in as at all as you are, and Rohini is as well. Rohini hopefully will be joining us. She's in the middle of an interview, and as soon as that's done she'll be here. But yes, Suchin, I discovered Friends much later, so it's really weird because of course I'm older than all of you, and I was actually a sentient adult when when it aired for the first time, right? But I have no memory in the 90s of sort of thinking about it, or wanting to watch it, or trying to seek it out when I traveled. I not at all. But interestingly, and not after that either. Of course, I knew about Friends and I knew what a big phenomenon it was, but somehow never had the urge to really kind of pay attention to it. And then last year, in the lockdown, my son is 22 and massive Friends fan, and he decided that he was going to curate Friends for us. So we watched Friends as a family. Every evening we would sit down after dinner and spend like whatever, those 30 minutes. But we didn't watch everything, right? So because there was no way to go through whatever. I mean, there was way, but at that point we thought this is going to be over soon, and we're never going to be able to make it through all the seasons. So he actually curated the most important shows from every season. And we watched Friends like that. And but even that, Suchin, even that, by the time we got to the end of it, that last show when the last episode when they step out and the keys are there, and we all got like really kind of sad and teary, and I was like, oh my god. So it's weird, but I'm as excited about the reunion as actual fans are.
But it's a really cool perspective to have, because obviously it's a show that has a massive following when it came out. It sort of had a massive following for people who discovered it later on, and there are so many people who've discovered it over the last few years. So it is really cool to get that perspective of people who sort of watch it later on to see if it matches the hype. But it is considered the ultimate comfort watch. So when you watched it last year for the first time, did you feel that it was that? Did you feel it was?
It was exactly that. It is exactly that. It is a comfort watch, and of course, some things are very glaring, about how white everybody is, and how heterosexual everybody, at least among the leads, But it is a show that makes you sort of just feel warm and fuzzy, and doesn't ask for too much. You don't have to think too much, but it's not like full on vacuous either. It's not brain dead. It's giving you something. It's giving you characters you can care about. It's making you laugh. I was always looking at Rachel's clothes because they're still so lovely to look at. And it's not demanding anything. I just felt like at the end of the day, it just made me feel nice at a very, very difficult time, when we had no clue what the hell was happening with our lives. We still don't. But it just made you feel that all was well with the world for those 25 minutes. And what more could you ask for? Vaibhav Kale says it's like the end of an era. I don't know, Vaibhav, because I'm reading constantly about how new generations are discovering it on Netflix, how younger and younger people are just, getting hooked onto it. So maybe it's not the end of anything.
Kamlesh says, my wife forced me to watch it. That is a great thing to be forced to watch. It could be a lot worse, Kamlesh. But no, I mean, I think you're exactly right. I've been trying to think over the last few days what it was about this show that made it so special that people connected with it to such a degree. And I just think that I was talking to my friend about it recently, and she put it really well. I think she said it's like hanging out with your favorite people, and I thought
Yeah.
that was such a wonderful way of putting it. Because it literally it was sort of that time in a lot of our lives where just the idea of friends of the family you choose. The fact that when you're going through that transition of adulting for the first time, and I think that that's exactly what the appeal is. It's the fact that it's just that age where people are sort of being independent for the first time. And I thought that was a really
When did
sweet
you
thought.
see it first?
I I sort of started watching it, I think, just after it stopped airing in real life. I think I was that sort of second wave of fandom, and I can't back this up, but I do genuinely think that more people sort of, it was at its most popular just after the show finished. I think at that
Right.
point, sort of 2005, 2006, that's when I think when it was really popular, but people discovered it who hadn't seen it before, and that's when it was just an absolute obsession. I remember it was that thing where you used to sort of come home from school and watch in India. I think it was on Z Cafe. They used to have like multiple episodes back to back, and it just really was this comfort watch. I remember
So
talking to my
have you Suchin seen every episode several times?
unfortunately, yes. I think I don't think there's anything else I've seen as many times as Friends, to the point where like
Amazing.
it's so ingrained in your memory that if somebody quotes a single line, the next line just sort of pops up in your head. Um, okay, somebody says, I don't like sitcoms. I don't take the laughter sounds in the background. Am I missing out on something? Fair enough. I mean, that's the specific brand of that sitcom where it is sort of a live audience. But I mean, Friends is one of the few that it really was filmed in front of a live audience,
And
unlike a lot of
Vanchal,
sitcoms. Yeah.
I feel like if you give it a chance, I don't know, yeah. It's like the viewing equivalent of Rajma Chawal. It's irresistible, I just think that it'll become that thing that will be warm and cuddly, and you'll always smile when you think about Friends. And I think that's what is lovely.
I also think it's pretty insane how it's endured. Like, we live in the age of more TV than ever before. And I
Yeah.
mean, the show ended in 2004, but I was reading up, and I think on average, apparently in the US collectively, it still gets sort of 16 million views an episode, that's like a brand new TV show. Netflix apparently paid more than 100 million to buy the rights for it. Yeah,
Yeah.
and the fact that it still was, after all this time, despite every massive big TV show, one of the most popular things watched around the world. So, I mean, there is just something about that show that really makes people melt. Ayodhya says, I was introduced to FC and Friends around the same time. I thought Anu was Courtney. After a series of disbelief interviews of Monica Geller speaking Hindi, I started to differentiate between the two. I have no idea how to respond to that one.
I don't either. I think it's a compliment.
There's a compliment in there somewhere.
In there somewhere, I will take it as that. What the hell? Why not? Why not? You know what's amazing, Suchin? So I have to tell everybody that I panicked when Suchin and our producer Sneha and Vinisha said that they want me on this, because I was like, oh my god, I don't know enough, I don't remember enough. So I asked Suchin to send me some reading material, and one of those articles was this long article in Vulture, I think, published in 2019. Where the author is talking about how one of the most comforting thing about Friends is the fact that these friends could hang out with each other and actually look at each other and talk to each other. While now, if people hung out, they'd all be on their phones. And I just found that so depressing and so disturbing and just so sad. I was like, oh my God, you're so right. Like, could you imagine 6 people sitting together and nobody having a phone? It's impossible. It's impossible.
I feel like
Right? Everybody
the
would
modern
be.
version. I feel like the modern version of Friends is just a WhatsApp group. That's 10 seasons of just literally a WhatsApp group.
And think about it, that we actually, so his thesis was that we miss that connect so much, which is why we keep going back to watch Central Park and these people just sitting there looking at each other without smartphones in their hands. Isn't that incredible?
I think that's, I mean, yeah, the fact that people today are connecting with that when it feels like everything has changed. I
Yeah.
wanted to ask your take on
Wait,
one of
Jyotish
the
P
reasons
says, does Suchin, wait, Suchin, Jyotish P says, does Suchin remind you of Ross?
I will take it. I will happily take it.
And why not? Why not?
That is
Please go
the
ahead.
biggest call. No, I just want to get your take on one of the reasons I think it was a massive deal in India. I remember a couple of years ago, I was talking to a film critic, Supratik Chatterjee, and he was talking about why are such a big deal here. And he said that there's so much we learn here from the movies that we don't really get exposed to in life. And he said specifically when it comes to love and relationships. So shows like Friends, where when we were growing up, I remember it's the show that really introduced me to the concept of dating. And there's so much in that show just about sort of romantic relationships and things like that, where I mean, you wouldn't really learn about it in real life. It's not something that you tend to learn from your parents or see around you. So I thought that was quite interesting, that it felt like the first time we had a look at that way of life,
Yeah.
and which I felt could have been why it really resonated with so many people.
Absolutely. Because also, Hindi cinema's idea, which is where, let's say, my ideas of romance came from, like Yash Chopra movies, right? But that is such a heightened romance. It's such a sort of fantasy idea of beauty and relationship and sacrifice and nobility, that there's no way it's real,
Yeah,
so I think you're absolutely right. And of course, 20 years ago, like when you had films like Dil Chahta Hai, you started to see real friendships as opposed to the quote unquote filmy friendships, right? Because
yeah,
filmy friendships, which also I love, but they are those, Jaan De Denge types, it's Viru and Jeff and Sholay, right? But
yeah,
Dil Chahta Hai was not that. And but in Dil Chahta Hai, you didn't get that same thing about male female relationships, like you said, about dating, and the fun thing is that all of these people are also flawed. They're so not perfect. I mean, each one
yeah,
has his or her problems. They're trying to figure it out. They're just muddling through life like the rest of us. And I think that was something you did not see in Hindi movies. You didn't
yeah,
see confused people. You didn't see people who didn't really know what they want to do, or this whole idea of adulting. You didn't. I mean, maybe in Wake Up Sid
yeah.
is the one thing that I can think of off the top of my head. But regularly, Hindi film protagonists, until I'd say about 10, 12 years ago, came with a lot of certitude. They knew who they were, they knew where they were going, and most of us are not like that. So I think
Yeah.
Supratik is right. Maybe there is that element of actually just learning how to behave.
Yeah, it really felt like that. Aman has a comment. That's a good question. Aman asks, if Friends was made in India, what would be its star cast? Fan casting is always a delight. Any people jump to mind?
Oh my God. Oh, that would be tough, man. You know, I'd want to. The problem is that our perception of these people has become just so big. But imagine if,
Yeah,
like, I don't know, Vicky Kaushal is somewhere in there,
yeah.
right? Uh, um,
But
um,
it does feel very strange. Yeah, it feels like wrong to just imagine anyone else in those roles. Like
it
that's
does.
not
It
right.
does. I can't. I cannot. I mean, no, you can't. I mean, could Ranbir Kapoor be Ross? No, he couldn't.
I think I'm Ross based on that last comment. Wow, that's
Hey,
a good one.
yeah, Pokhraj is saying Saif is Chandler, Konkona is Monica, Juhi Chawla is Phoebe. I love it because this is intergenerational. Cyrus Brocha is Jodie, Karina is Rachel, and Abhishek, who? Abhishek Bachchan is Ross? Pokhraj, is
I'm
that what
guessing
we're
so.
seeing? Abhishek
I
Bachchan is
love
Ross?
the amount of thought that's gone into that. There must have been like a spreadsheet and a whole cancellation process to arrive at that. But no, I mean, speaking of Ross, I also think that for me that is one of my favorite love stories. The Ross and Rachel, will they, won't they? I feel like that's the show that really put that template in place, which so many shows have tried to replicate. But
Yes.
it just I thought they built it up beautifully, and obviously there's that payoff at the end, which just it was predictable but perfect. That's exactly what you wanted.
Yeah,
Everything that you
it
wanted to
was
happen.
predictable. Suchin, we
Yeah,
knew there was no way she was going to Paris. Okay,
yeah,
we knew that. But when she does come back, and it's lovely. It was fantastic. I think that whole idea of sort of them being that close, then the whole were they or were they not on a break,
yeah,
then of course having a baby together, but he's also had so many other relationships, she does too. I think it was just very interesting to see them grow. The other amazing thing about it, Suchin, especially when you see those compilations that like are on YouTube, right? Rachel and Ross, or the most, or whatever, the best food scenes, or the best whatever sarcastic moments or comebacks. You also have such a sense of the passing of time,
yeah,
and I think that is also what really fills you with, I don't know, it kind of gives you a sense of your own mortality, of how we all are aging, and yet it's so beautiful that we stayed with them for this whole stretch of time, and we all grew older as they grew older. It's just lovely.
yeah. And I
It's
mean, you
just lovely.
mentioned why Novad asks, why aren't there any series like Friends in India? I might be wrong, but I feel like somewhere in there was a show that somebody made, which was, I think we had a phase where there were a lot of Indian sitcoms that did try and ape the West, like Everybody Loves Raymond and stuff. So I would not be surprised if somebody tried to make a Friends knockoff here. But no, for some reason, I don't see that working very well. Yeah, there you go. Hello Friends. That was the one I was thinking about. Malika has said it was called Hello Friends. It was a disaster. Yeah, you can you can see why that feels like a bad idea. But no, I know you mentioned Ross and Rachel, whether they were on a break or not. What is your conclusion on the matter? Were they on a break or were they not?
I mean, they were. I think they were. What do you think?
But I think they technically were, but that doesn't really justify him cheating. Is what
No,
I've
it
thought
doesn't.
about over the years.
It doesn't. It doesn't. And
Yeah,
and like, why would he, right? Like,
yeah,
it had just happened. Why would he?
yeah.
But if you want to be strictly technical about it, I guess they were.
And a lot of people also argue about which is the definitive love story. Is it the Chandler Monica sort of stable, the
No,
married couple, or is
no.
it?
For me, it's Ross and Rachel because,
Yeah,
finally, stable is never as interesting as will they, won't they. Uh,
yeah, for sure.
Stable is sweet, but like, what are
Yeah,
you going to do with that? It's so much more interesting when you desperately want them to get together, and she flies to London when he's getting married, and then he of course says Rachel at the wedding, which was just fantastic. So I feel like those things, and the amazing thing, Suchin, is that none of it is actually realistic.
yeah,
And in that sense, I think Friends was also, like a Hindi movie where the plot might not be necessarily realistic, but the emotions are.
yeah,
So the emotions move you. You are connected. You're immersed in what happens with these characters and how they feel, even though what's playing out just seems ridiculous.
yeah. No, I think that's exactly it. Arnesh says the only thing which I didn't like was that Joey, who played a pivotal role in everyone's relationship, was remained single till the end. Isn't that part of who he is at his core? Just the
Correct.
player with a heart.
Yeah. How would Amish? How would he say how you doing to anybody if there was if there was
Just
somebody there? And I feel like it would be too neat if Joey also found someone.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know, it would just be like, you've crossed off all the T's and dotted the
yeah.
I's, and it's nice. And of course, then they did a spin-off, which needed him to be single. I never saw that. Did you ever see that?
I did. I have to say I enjoyed it. It was considered the biggest failure because it wasn't Friends, because nothing's ever going to be Friends. But
Yeah.
just in terms of just a funny sitcom, if you were judging it as a standalone entity, I thought it was so much fun. It was about him moving to LA, staying with his sister, trying to make it as an actor. And it was a really sweet, fun bunch of characters. But yes, if you are going to judge it by its predecessor, then that is not going to end well. But you mentioned Dhruv says Joey and Rachel over Ross and Rachel. Ouch! That is a that is a controversial
No,
opinion.
Joe. No. Though I loved that scene where Joey and Rachel can't actually hook up, and she says it's because
Yeah,
we're such good friends that we can't do this.
yeah,
You know, which is, see, that's it. That's when you find that in all that fluff and in all that sort of, comedy, they distill one truth
yeah.
which is embedded in there, and that just kind of hits home, and you're like, oh my god, that's exactly right, and which is what I think accounts for some of the longevity of the show, because it still speaks to us at a very basic level.
I mean, there's something so universal just about what it was going for. You
Yeah.
also mentioned YouTube compilations. I have to say, there was a 5-year period where my go-to sort of pick me up, if I was in the worst mood, is on YouTube. They have these endless sort of videos of Friends bloopers of all the seasons, and they are just the funniest, most wonderful thing ever. They are so funny, and literally, it was my go-to thing to watch, just to feel better, because it's just them making a fool of themselves in front of a live audience. And yeah, just for anyone who hasn't checked it out, watch Friends bloopers. You will feel instantly better, because it just really was so much fun.
Naina Negi says, could they have made an episode in which they tell where these characters are now rather than a reunion? I guess maybe that'll require, I don't know, a lot of scripting, man. This is of course not that at all, I don't know. And I don't know, would it be satisfying, Suchin, to know where they are now?
I'm scared to know the answer. I'm scared that the
Exactly.
makers would be like, Ross and Rachel are divorced. I'm like, no, they're fine. They're good. Everything's great. But I think every
Exactly.
few years, there's been this conversation about reunion, reboot. Can we do something? And they've, thankfully always said no. And I think they've discussed multiple formats. At one point, they said, we'll just do a Thanksgiving episode. At one point, they wanted to, not the cast, I meant the makers wanted to do, sort of bring them back. But I just think there is no version of this that would have ended well. So a reunion
Yeah.
feels right and safe.
Yeah. And so, you can kind of indulge in the nostalgia of it without having something to compare to the original.
Yeah.
That's really key, because you don't want anything to taint your experience of it. And if you try and do something now, I feel like it would. And again, Suchin, when I see the promos for this reunion, I just feel like, oh my god, they're so much older, right? And we're all so much older. And I look at Joey and I look at them, and I don't know. It's just it also makes you somewhere kind of rage against the fact that we all have to get old, because a few of us should be designated eternally young for the rest of us.
Vinil says,
what is Vinil saying, Suchin?
I feel it's a very warm show. Even when it's problematic, it still feels heartwarming. I think he has a point there. I think that there are obviously issues with it, because, personally, I think it is a product of its time. So all the sitcoms around that time really did have these common issues like diversity. But I also think there were so many things on that show which, like, I'd never seen before. I'd never, just how casual they were about same-sex relationships. I believe it was the first time they showed a lesbian wedding on screen or something to that effect. So, these things which were so, when you watch these things and their concepts you've never really seen on screen, and they're so casual about it, and they do it through humor, it just forces you to think, okay, that's so interesting. But I take the criticisms against the people who say it hasn't aged well. But I still think that most of it, if you watch it today, it still doesn't feel dated.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't, Suchin. And I watched it last year, so I'm somebody who's been through it, and you do, of course, like I said before, notice these glaring kind of gaps. But the truth is, Suchin, there's very few things that are ahead of their times. It's something we like to say, but everything almost always is a product of its time. And for me, and this is other philosophical discussion. The idea of re-examining everything through today's lens and declaring it wanting is too easy, and it's too glib. And it's like, okay, well, this isn't good enough because this wasn't there, but it wasn't there. None of us were thinking this. We've all evolved, we've all grown, we've all understood the need for inclusion and diversity and representation. It's not like it's not like we were thinking this 15, 20 years ago. So I just feel like there's something just very reductive about that approach. Where you cancel something but at that point, what they did was, in any case, perhaps ahead of its time. 20 years is a long time, man. It's a long time.
Very much so.
So I just think, okay, what Shalini Kumari says, question for both, which character do you personally connect with the most? Wow, that's a tough one, because I'm sort of type A, like
Monica.
Monica, but I love Rachel. I love her sort of ditziness and how great her hair looked all the time.
I believe that was the thing. I think it was the UK where there was a time where everyone got the Rachel haircut. It became like a whole thing. So
my God, it was so beautiful. And I love that she was so what's the word? Just so sort of not unaware, but so unassuming about her sexiness. This was not a sexy woman who was throwing it in your face. This was a sexy woman who was vulnerable and confused and frankly very foolish at times, and I really love that about her. Though in life, I'm exactly sort of as obsessive and perfectionist as Monica is. What about you, Suchin?
Can I say the character I wish I was most like? Is that
yes.
allowed? I just want to be able to be the person who comes up with everything Chandler says all the time at any given point. That's just. Did you ever do that last year when you were watching it? Did you ever just feel like you could write down all the catchphrases and one-liners and find a way of just busting them out in conversation?
Yeah, you using them, because I always think of one-liners like 2 weeks later.
Yeah, you just wish you were that.
That's quick, just so smart.
It's a great question from Arnab, who says, which special character appearance do you like the most? So I guess the cameos. Which, they had some amazing cameos. Anu, what was your favorite?
They did have amazing cameos. And of course, Brad Pitt was he's Brad Pitt, right? But they used it so wonderfully, It wasn't how you had imagined Brad Pitt would be used at all. I love that. And I love Bruce Willis. I thought that was so much fun. So much fun. What were yours?
Bruce Willis, I actually read, I don't know if it's true, but I read on one of these facts websites that he apparently did the role for free on a dare because he was doing a movie with Matthew Perry. And Matthew Perry said that if this movie sort of becomes a hit, you have to be a guest star on Friends. And apparently he went with it. And that's what got him on, which is one of those really cool stories, which I hope is true. I definitely agree with Brad Pitt. I thought that was insane. I just love I think the earlier seasons, people tend to forget that I think George Clooney was there. Robin Williams was there. That was amazing. There was Hugh Laurie, who plays Dr. House, for anyone who's seen it. He played a very angry passenger who sat next to Rachel and just arguing with her. Yeah, exactly. On the flight. That was hilarious. So I love the throwaway ones. Trying to think what Julia Roberts was amazing.
Yes.
That was a great episode.
But
they really did have everyone.
Look at the. That also tells you about a film industry, right? Like, imagine, and like, I don't know that even if today we were to make something like Friends here, that you would have actors the level of George Clooney or Bruce Willis or Brad Pitt making special appearances. I don't know that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that they would. And the coolness of it is that these guys saw it for what it was. And even though they were superstars, they made these guest appearances and they added so much. And it just made them feel so much more cool. I just think that I'm not sure we have that culture here yet.
Yeah. Also, it feels like it's the opposite. At that time, it was huge to have Bruce Willis as a guest star. Now, when you watch Friends, you're like, that's a big deal for Bruce Willis. He was on Friends for like 10 seconds. Like, it's the other way around. So we wanted to sort of ask everyone what their favorite moments were. We obviously compiled a list of our own. I mean, it's insane to make this list because I think there are just so many moments in 10 seasons of the show which just stick in your brain. But we had a couple we wanted to talk about, which I think we had some pictures as well. I think the first one that came to mind was Monica having her head stuck in a turkey, which sounds insane, but that's a thing that actually happened in an actual episode. And I think that's the second time it happened. There you go. That's that looks fashionable at this point. Like that's how you know an actor is dedicated to their craft, to put their head in a turkey.
It's just fantastic.
Oh, that's
Pivot.
the iconic pivot.
I love Pivot. This was so funny.
I remember seeing this on T-shirts just in public, and anyone who recognized that reference is an absolute hero. But that moment is just gets me every time. It just makes you want to shout Pivot at the TV.
And again, oh, there he is.
He was funny. He was hilarious. Like, he could be in a sitcom. Can we just say Brad Pitt has some serious comedic chops?
Yeah.
Oh, this was the I Hate Rachel episode.
That was the I Hate Rachel episode. Absolutely. Yeah. Joey doesn't chef.
I think so that's when a show becomes iconic, when you can hear the image in your head, or the GIF in this case.
Correct.
I can hear the voice. I remember for the longest time I tried to copy that.
This is one of my favorites. This was so funny. And again, what are these situations? It's nothing, right? And look at what they spun out of it.
I think this is the episode that taught me the spelling of Mississippi. Oh, this is the icon. Oh, this is when she proposed to him. Oh, that was.
Yeah.
I love the proposal. Just again, it was such a bumpy episode of, Chandler messing up how he was going to propose to her.
Right.
And like his entire plan backfired, and then she went back to Richard, and then finally it led to this amazing moment, which is the best use of candles on screen of all time. And this is the moment you mentioned earlier.
Absolutely amazing. He's getting married and he calls his wife Rachel. Incredible. Really incredible.
It makes you realize it's got to be quite the skill to say the right name at the altar. I imagine it must take a lot of work. I think we have Rohini joining us.
Oh my God, she's here! Yeah!
Oh my God! I'm so happy I'm here, guys. Sorry, I don't know what you talked about, but please ask me questions and I'll answer immediately.
Well, tell us your relationship with the show.
I'll tell you a very specific incident when I was in college, and I remember that when I was in college in the year 99-2000, people had started talking about Friends, right? And at that point, we wanted to be in with this conversation. It was cool, and that observation that I remember is that we had options like Small Wonder at that time on television. So Star World would have Angrezi programming, and mujhe yaad hai ki, Small Wonder would show, and then there would be stuff like Bold and the Beautiful before that. So that's something that we couldn't relate to. And then there would also be Seinfeld, and मैं honestly बता दूं, उस time पे मेरी humor उतनी American या उतनी advanced नहीं थी. मुझे नहीं समझ में आता Seinfeld. आज मैं बेहद हंसती हूँ, लेकिन I didn't understand it back then. So suddenly when my clique or my friend circle started talking about this, I started watching Friends only so that I could be a part of that conversation and be cool, to be honest. And you would get validated if you had a reference. And I remember there was an episode where Joey feels that way and he buys those encyclopedias just so that he can participate in that conversation. And that's the reason why I started watching Friends. And the other thing that I must share is that my brother and I, we till date are, I think, bonded because of this show. And let's talk about the fact that siblings in India don't really have too much in common. We are siblings, yeah, but if you're brother, sister, we're living different worlds. But even yesterday, when I called him to say this live stream is happening and, tell me what's your memory. And there was such a tender conversation because we went through those beats together and we love the same thing. So I think this is what Friends did for me in my life. So just wanted to add that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's just a glue, no? It holds people together.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, Champa Sharma says, Rohini, please talk about Phoebe. Rohini, come on.
Smelly cat.
Do you have a connection with Phoebe?
Smelly cat. I don't know if you guys have discussed this already, but when you talk about favorites, the thing with Friends is that I always felt that I couldn't pick a favorite, though my favorite hairstyle will always be the Rachel. And even today, I'll try and cut my hair like that. It's so weird. It might be dated. I don't care. But I think the ideal person is somebody who has a little of everyone, right? Because I could be a Phoebe at some points, and I could be, and I'm Monica about a lot of things, and I'm Rachel in love. So I think that to me was so beautiful. And I think even today, when they talk about etching characters, when they make TV shows, when they make movies, somewhere this sort of identification of you are this person might have come, okay, for the first time to writing. I mean, usse pehle bhi hua hoga, but so clearly that you are this person and you are this person. So I think that's probably my take on it.
I think that would be so cool if you could mix and match and just take specific traits from each one and make the perfect person with the perfect haircut. It's just, life would be set.
Did you guys talk about favorites? Who your favorite characters are?
Yeah, we did. Who's yours, Rohini? Come on.
Chandler.
Really?
Hands down, Chandler. Like, he's so much more than he lets on. Unlike Ross is a know-it-all and he loves it. Like, he's a geek and he kind of like doesn't shy away from it. But Chandler is the sort of guy who's really smart but underplays it. And I think a lot of, and this is weird to say this, but a lot of our humor today, and I don't know how many of us will accept this, is so Friends. The self-deprecating humor I understood from Friends because that's what Chandler will do. And I mean, sometimes it's problematic. Rewatching a show in today's context and times, I don't know how many of us do that. And do we find things problematic? But even today, I was watching an episode where both of them sit when they've been robbed, remember? Sare furniture aake wo le leta hai because Joey makes that cam unit and then he gets stuck in and someone robs them. And it is so self-referential, so smart because they're sitting on those patio chairs and then say stuff like, okay, that's it, we're white trash, So that sort of thing, I feel that today you could criticize the show, but I feel that they were aware and they were, they were not as bad as some shows like don't hold up at all. Like, you would say that, oh my God, did they actually do that? And I think that a lot of points they were aware. So I hope that, I hope people feel that way.
Okay,
Gaurav says we had a senior in our college who would tell stories of Friends. We had a senior in college who would tell stories of Friends as her own. I mean, full respect to that person. I've been trying to take lines from Friends and pass them off as my own for the longest time to try and be funny. So I think that's completely acceptable.
There's a question which is favorite episode. Did you guys cover that already?
No, we talked about favorite moments, but what is your favorite episode? You have one?
Favorite episode is tough. No, this question is for you, so we'll answer it, but they want your answer as well. Oh, tough one, yeah. I think so many of them, but I think any of those episodes where Monica and Chandler were getting together and they did not let on to the others, I thought that was some of my favorite bits because
they don't know that I know, we know they know.
Yes, it's that reason. So I don't know that they know that we know that I know. Yeah, absolutely. One of my favorites. Suchin, yours?
I think for me, favorite in defense of Ross, I have to say, I think we've just lost Anu, but I'm sure she will join in again in a sec. In defense of Ross, I have to say, I think the funniest episodes of Friends are all I don't know the category. It's all the dumb shit that happens to Ross, like the tan, the whole pivot thing, the time he gets drunk. And he can't handle Joey and Rachel together. Just anything dumb that happens to Ross. The time his teeth, leather pants is one when he gets his teeth whitened, like whiter than God. Like I just think that those are some of the funniest episodes because he's an idiot in the most lovable way.
Absolutely. Wow. So somebody says Matthew Perry wrote a lot of his lines. See, that's why I like him. He's such a smart guy. Monica proposing to Chandler. Yeah, I thought that was pretty good. The Paul Rudd episodes, I absolutely love them. And there has to be, have you guys talked about favorite cameos
I
yet?
know.
Hi.
Sorry, I have
Yeah.
no idea why my Wi-Fi just gave out. Yes, we did talk about favorite cameos, and I said, of course, Brad Pitt and Bruce Willis. And Suchin, you liked Hugh Laurie and
Robin Williams and George Clooney.
Robin Williams. Yes, yes.
And Julia
What are
Roberts.
yours?
No, I think Brad Pitt, my favorite, and yeah, just Brad Pitt. You know, the fact they use that so well because they were romancing in real life and they hate each other on the show. To me, that was so intelligent, so smart. It was great. Somebody also says, please talk about Phoebe. So yeah, I think Phoebe had a lot of things, going on. Like she had a twin sister, guys. She had an evil twin sister, which I thought was
Where do you go
genius.
from there?
Very good, exactly. I love that. And the fact that, she grew up on the streets or that, so she represents, people, everybody could relate to her because of that, I guess. Or the fact that her mom killed herself. And they say it so, they say it like no big deal. But
Yeah.
just imagine at that point, today, I don't think, what would happen if Friends were made today? Oh, right, the reunion is tomorrow. I don't know why they're doing it. Can they be who they were?
Speaking of the reunion, good time to ask, what do you guys want to, what is the ideal reunion for you guys? What do you hope to see? What do you hope it can be or should be?
Okay, so
Sorry, Rohini, I just, for me, it's like a nostalgia trip, right? I just want to feel warm and fuzzy and just see them all in the same frame. And kind of, I was saying to Suchin before, Rohini, that it's also such a reminder of the passing of time, you
oh
know.
my God, yeah. Yeah.
And for me, that it's always lovely. It's always lovely to kind of, I mean, it's bittersweet. It's not lovely in just a in banal sense. It is bittersweet to recognize your own mortality, to know that nothing is forever. And I think that if we can get that sense of nostalgia and humor and just seeing these lovely people in one frame again, I'm happy. I'm not asking for too much.
How sweet. Yes, absolutely. I think that's the spirit of it for sure. However, I have a sad comment to make, and I'm not being unkind, so please don't mind. But I just feel that when you look at that poster, like I really feel that the women know how to take care of themselves, and the poor guys, like they really look like it's caught up with them this passage of time. So I would say that it's great to see them again because they are such a great unit. But I also have a feeling that it's not going to be an episode, right? Like, which I
No,
find,
it's not.
yeah,
It's not.
yeah,
He's doing a table read, and James Corden is talking to them, and there's a bunch of guest appearances,
yes,
including BTS, my friends.
oh,
And
ho,
Justin
ho,
Bieber.
ho, ho.
When I think of Friends, I think of Justin Bieber.
Correct. Absolutely.
I just, Divya asked if there's no fans of Janice. I still think the greatest catchphrase of all time. Oh my God. I'm not going to try and do an impression, but I have tried it in the past. It's not gone well.
Come on, Susan, do it. Come on.
Oh, no, I'm not going to.
Oh
practice.
my God. I hope I did it correctly.
That was pretty on point.
Yeah, I hope
No,
I
but
did.
for me, reunion-wise, I mean, it's a bit of a corny answer, but I just think for the longest time, so many people have tried to capitalize on these guys to get them together to do an episode. For a lot of them, I think they're not a fan of the fame of Friends because they just keep being put back in those characters. They can't do other roles, and because everyone just says, just say this catchphrase or whatever. I just really hope to see them have fun and like come back because they want to, not because somebody is making a lot of money out of them. Like just see six people come back together and they just feel great that it's a reunion for them, I guess is what I'm saying. I hope it's not just this fluffy package thing that's just for entertainment. And
But Suchin, somebody's not just making a lot of money. They are also making a lot of money. They're all co-producers on this reunion. Okay, everyone's walking home with many millions more after this show. Let's not lose sight of that, but that's fine. That's fine. I mean, they've earned it. It's fine. I don't have a problem.
I think Priyanka Arora has made a really... See, this is the whole deal. Like, please talk about sexism and body shaming in Friends too. And that is such a great observation, because today when we watch a show, that's what we're talking about. Like, does it hold in 2021? And there are some moments which they're very aware of, And body shaming, I think there was an episode where, Monica wants to go out with the same guy that Rachel went to prom with, and that's Chad. And then she says, why couldn't you leave him? And then she says, the fat girl inside of me, I owe it to her. So in a way, yes, you could look at this as body shaming. But as I said, there are so many moments where they do redeem themselves. And they do have the awareness that this might be incorrect to do. So I'm not very, easy to say, but they were sexist or they were body shaming, because I think it's more complex than that, and that's what I love about it.
It is, Rohini. That's what I was telling Suchin, that I think it's too easy now in hindsight to be woke. But the fact is, this was the 90s. And for that time, the things they tried were, probably ahead of their time. And the truth is, people did not know. We were not evolved enough. They were just, we weren't there. The cultural conversation was not where it is now. So you can't now retroactively try and fit those politics into today's politics. And today's politics is wonderful. I mean, we must insist on diversity and inclusivity and no fat shaming and all the rest of it. But I don't think you should take away from something that didn't have it, because at that point that wasn't the conversation. What are you going to do?
I think you can say both. I think it's fair to say that there are moments and aspects which, as you said, it's a product of its time. But it's also a fact that when this show is on in the background, my mood is better. That is also just a fact.
Exactly.
Because I can't really argue with that. It's just part of who you are after a point.
Yeah. And I think let's talk about just for half a second, just Gunther, because I revisited the show and I realized that the whole reason why Rachel and Ross took a break was actually Gunther. Was Ross, of course, messing up, but who told Rachel? It was Gunther. And I'm like, oh wow, man! Like, that's revenge. Like, that would happen in real life, right? So.
What an ass. Sorry. Like, I just realized you're right. No, I'm not. Not a nice guy. I mean, if he hadn't done that, they would have been together from season 1 or 2, whatever it was.
Correct.
The DPR says if Ross was judgmental on lesbians, but it's also a fact that he was probably one of the first to dance with his ex-wife's lesbian partner at her wedding, which is what we were saying, that, it is also the show that it showed so much that had never been seen before on TV in such a casual way. And I think it also did a lot. But like every show, it really was a product of its time. So obviously there will be aspects that haven't aged well, but it still makes me very happy. Sorry.
Wait, please don't do some quiz and all. I'm very scared.
Sorry, there is a quiz. I was just getting to it. I was like, Mwah, evil laugh. Is it time for the quiz?
No. Okay, wait, I have to plug in my battery on my laptop. Sorry guys, live stream पे ये सब हो सकता है.
Acha, so you go plug in the battery. I am pulling out the quiz. Unless Suchin, are there any more comments you want to respond to while I get to the quiz?
Yes. So Sana says, what about Phoebe carrying her brother's triplets and Rachel giving birth to Emma out of wedlock? That's so progressive for its time, which is also true. Like, there really were aspects that show that, really that weren't seen before that. So credit where it's due. Also, I never thought triplets could be that funny as a concept, but that was just hilarious. Just through the entire show, like just having your brother's triplets.
Yeah, Arnab says something amazing. He says the show talks about motherhood in different forms. Phoebe being a surrogate, Rachel being a single mother, and Monica adopting. And I never thought of that, but wow, thank you, Arnab, for that.
Me neither. My God, I'd not noticed that at all. Yeah. How wonderful. Thank you. Okay, guys, it is time. Now I am getting to ask the questions. If anybody who's listening to us, please put in the comments if you know the answers. Question number 1. Phoebe read Wuthering Heights and blank in her literature class, fill in the blank. What was the other book that she read? Does anybody remember?
Obviously, I do. I just feel like somebody else should answer that because,
No, you
for
answer that.
interaction.
You answer that.
You answer
No,
it.
I feel like we should give somebody else the chance while I Google it on the side.
Oh, you
I have
want
no
the audience. Acha, audience, you all are playing with us. Come on, answer. Romeo Juliet.
Pride and Prejudice.
Jane Eyre.
No. Jane Eyre,
Jane
that's
Eyre?
correct. It is Jane Eyre. It is
Jane
Jane
Eyre.
Eyre. Okay. Come on, this is easier, guys. This is easier. How many times was Ross legally divorced?
4.
3.
3 of oh shit.
Okay. How many times did Chandler and Janice break up during the entirety of the show?
1 second, I will wait for this audience to answer also. Like,
Chalo, batao.
just say.
We've got a lot of 3s and 4s in the audience.
Yeah, because
No.
they were both number questions, na. So now
5. Chetan has it. Hirmanth has it. It's 5 times. Neha
Wow.
Rajesh also has it. It's 5 times. Skittles TV
So then-
also has it.
So is that the definitive relationship of Friends, not Ross and Rachel? Maybe no. Sorry. Okay.
Indeed. Okay. What did Rachel and her sister Amy fight about on Thanksgiving? Does anybody remember?
It's the beauty pageant. She took Emma to.
No.
But she did. But she
Right?
did take Emma to the beauty pageant. Yes.
She did take it. Yeah, she took her to the beauty pageant, but that's not what they fought about. They fought about something else.
She got her ear pierced. That's it. Yeah.
No, yes, KP has it. It's custody of Emma. Who would get Emma if Ross and Rachel died?
Oh, godmother. Of course. Fantastic.
I'm gonna cry.
And our last question is, who was Monica originally looking for at Ross's wedding in London?
I actually know this.
Say?
Can Joey?
Yes,
looking for Joey.
you are right. She was originally looking for Joey. Okay, guys, what do we close with? A favorite memory? Anything that has happened in your life because of Friends? Anything else?
Everything you wish would happen to your life because of Friends. Like that's what I want. That's the life I want. I want to in the coffee house, 6 friends.
I have to tell you that for us as a family, Rohini, I was telling Suchin earlier that I only watched it last year because my son is a fan. And when we went into lockdown, every evening he would curate. So I haven't seen all 10 seasons. I've seen the Agni Chopra curated version of Friends. Okay. So that's just specific episodes which he deems good enough. But it was a wonderful bonding exercise for all of us, and it was just so lovely to sit there and to, of course, see it yourself, but also to see it through his eyes. And again, he's not an original viewer. He's a guy who discovered it on Netflix. So it's really a show that endures. It's amazing.
Absolutely. Suchin, you want to go?
Favorite memory? There are only 2 things. One of them is very frivolous, but I remember the day I found an episode of Friends I'd never seen before. It's such a distinct happiness. I was like, it happened like 10 years ago or whatever, but I was like, I thought I'd seen everything. And it was a Thanksgiving episode, and I think season 1 or 2, where they play American football. And I was like, did I just find an episode of Friends I'd never seen? This is the greatest gift ever. So that's my memory, I think. It was just so much fun.
Abhijit Chidarwar is saying, I survived COVID watching Friends. That's amazing.
Yes.
Power of storytelling.
Yes. I think what Friends gave me, I think, is it was such an integral part of me growing up, right? Like, because I was in college when this happened. So just age-wise, like, I think, what would I be like 5 years from now? Or what could I be 5 years from now was so liberating to watch for me. The fact that you're friends and you're living together. Now, this you could say, "Arey, ye sab to matlab videsh mein hota hai." It's not true, guys. I think India was going through such a fantastic time when Friends came to us. We were suddenly given the option to watch these things that spoke to our age and gave us something to aspire to. So while, of course, I was discovering Satyajit Ray, and I always say some of the toughest times in my life, I have oscillated between Bhagavad Gita and Coffee with Karan. Okay, and that's how life is. So
Absolutely. Agree. Totally.
so while I was, discovering Satyajit Ray and all the greats, I had this to go back to just for the laughs, and I think that is so important because I felt that I was not alone. These everybody messes up, and it's okay. And I think that is the biggest thing, that the gift that Friends gave me, that you could have big mess ups in your life and things will fall in place, because I love that about the show. It's never sad. It's never too sad. So I'm grateful for that.
Yeah.
I think that's
Yeah.
wonderful. I think just the idea that, which is always what sticks in my head, that friends really are the family that you choose.
Yeah.
Which I think that's what the show was for me. And yeah, that is an idea which is just wonderful. Dhruv says, end by singing the title track. We can't because we can't. But thank you for that suggestion.
What do you mean you can't?
I mean, we
I
can,
can't
sure.
sing
I
it.
don't.
I
It's
can't
like,
sing
I
it.
told you that was gonna be this way. Ta-da-da-da-da. Your job's a joke, you broke, your love life's zero. Hey, it's like you're always stuck in second gear when it hasn't been your day, your week, your month, even your year. I'll be there for you. Oh my God, this is such a moment. This is my moment, and I'm so grateful you all have let me have it. So this was for me, guys. This is for me.
That's exactly what I want for the Friends reunion. That's just that unbridled happiness. That's all I want.
Yes, 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 yes.
Thank you, guys. Thank you all for watching us. And please watch the show, watch the reunion, and just message us at Film Companion on Twitter, Instagram, whatever social media you're on. Tell us if you liked it. Tell us if you did. I'm going in there wanting to love it.
Yeah,
Definitely.
yeah. 12:32 p.m. tomorrow. So I'm assuming, I don't mess up the timing. कल दोपहर को 12:32. Is that even correct?
Apparently,
is
that's
correct.
the official. It is, yeah, on Z5. For anyone who doesn't know, it's Z5 Premium. So I can't wait to watch it.
Absolutely. Thank you,
Yes.
guys.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
Thank you for doing this. Bye.